When we come back, a new bill in Germany may ban Huawei 5G equipment. What's at stake for the country's ambitious 5G vision? Do they really care? Stay with us. Germany is weighing whether or not to ban Huawei's equipment in the plan to rapidly roll out its 5G network. A bill drafted by some lawmakers says German authorities should be able to exclude untrustworthy 5G equipment vendors from core as well as peripheral networks. Although Huawei is not mentioned by name, the bill echoes U.S.'s warnings that the Chinese company poses serious security threats and should be excluded from any critical network infrastructure. So how much is at stake for Germany's 5G ambitions, and how important is the German market for Huawei? Joining me in the Beijing studio is Professor Zhang, Associate Professor from Beijing Normal University, and from the UK, Mike Bastin, Senior Lecturer at the University of Southampton. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. So first of all, let me go to Mr. Bastin. Haven't seen you for a while. So on the one hand, you've got some lawmakers heeding President Trump or the Trump administration's warning, saying Huawei poses a threat to Germany's national security, but you've got others saying, how? Show us the evidence and then we'll talk. In the meantime, we need to upgrade our mobile phone network. So how do you look at the situation?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think we need to hold fire on any judgment right now. I think the German government, I don't think they'll take the stance that the US government have taken, and increasingly perhaps the UK government might take. I think they will look at it far more objectively. So I don't think we should read into the word trustworthy or untrustworthy in the same way that the American government interprets that. So I think it's really an opportunity for Huawei, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the German government, the German market, allow Huawei access and it penetrates that market successfully, and in so doing will really register itself as a truly global brand.
What makes you cautiously optimistic that actually Huawei would not be blocked because it is a Chinese company, or this trustworthy or untrustworthy doesn't matter so much? What makes you think so?
Well, I think there's two reasons. First of all, there's still no evidence whatsoever that Huawei is involved in any sort of espionage. That's still rumor, sort of Trump-led hearsay in terms of to further his own political gain. So no evidence whatsoever. And secondly, again, I think I'll repeat myself, I think the German and the German government are a lot more objective, a lot more rational. I don't think it's petty politics or political issues are going to get in the way here. That the German market and German industry have become so competitive because they allow such strong open competition. So it's an openly competitive market, and they welcome Huawei's excellence in this field. I feel they will.
If that is truly the case, of course, it's good news, but from what we understand from some of the press reports, it feels that there is this fear that Huawei could be targeted, could be blocked because it is a Chinese company, because of the so-called national security threat that it has been associated with. So, Professor Zhang, how do you see the situation? Is it a positive step, or is it a potentially positive step, or is it a concerning step?
Right, I actually agree almost fully with what Mike just said. So I would caution against construing all, I don't know about this particular bill, but construing all deliberations by German lawmakers as being discriminatory against China or whatever. I would actually add to his argument that obligatory clause in contracts, these kind of things preventing companies from sharing data with foreign governments, that kind of proposals, a lot of the media outlets think that's tailor-made for China, that's against Huawei. But actually, if you go back to 2013, when Snowden just revealed that NSA was spying on Angela Merkel, somebody from Angela Merkel's Conservative Party actually came out and floated this law out there. And back then, the target was American companies. So this might just be like a just, proper regulation that they're trying to solve a problem.
Well, if there is no backdoor evidence, associated with Huawei, then why do you think, Professor Zhang, why do you think this law is being prepared? For what purpose? To do what?
Well, there's a lot of American pressure, that's for sure, and Germany's security situation is in some way guaranteed by Americans. But I don't think, some lawmakers might be more inclined to follow American blindly, but the situation, for example, is the Iran nuclear deal that clearly shows the U.S. security concern and the European security concern are not perfectly aligned. America is perfectly happy to throw Europe under the bus, exposing them to nuclear risks, just because they want to get rid of the risk of Iran developing long-range missiles that can reach the U.S. So for Germany to blindly put all their security issues in the American basket would not actually be a logical thing. So I think they will be very intelligent.
All right, Professor Bastin, do you have anything to add, or what do you think of this? Why are they preparing this bill if there has never been any backdoor evidence associated with Huawei?
Yes. Well, I would add that, again, your panelist makes a very good point, that this is, it is potentially sensitive, that the 5G network, so governments have to be rightly cautious. So I think that's why they're preparing this bill, and that's why they're using the words trustworthy or untrustworthy, because of the potential risk. But again, it's not, the implication isn't automatically that there is a threat from China or a Chinese company or a Chinese brand. I think they would do this regardless of whether Huawei existed or didn't exist.
All right. But how will this law impact the decision by the, I believe is a German company, a German telecoms company, which have decided that they were going to use Huawei and another company's equipment to build their 5G network? Will this bill potentially have any impact on plans such as this one to use Huawei's equipment, Professor Zhang?
So far, this particular bill, probably not. So previously, Angela Merkel and actually Emmanuel Macron actually came out and said the preferred way for them to deal with the security concerns is rule-based approach, not to exclude any particular country or companies based on politics. And so they put out this regulation that instead of banning anybody, they would issue government certificates. They would look into each individual case and issue certificates. And this Telefonica Deutschland.
Right. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. The deal is pending the certification. Yeah.
A lot of news, however, has been made about what the Chinese ambassador to Germany, Ambassador Wu Ken, said supposedly or reportedly in reaction to the kind of action that could be taken by Germany concerning Huawei, because there seems to be some kind of siding by Germany or some kind of tendency of Germany siding with the United States. So it's reported that China's envoy to Berlin said if Germany were to take a decision that leads to Huawei's exclusion from the German market, there will be consequences. The Chinese government will not stand idly by. And of course, this is creating a lot of backlash. People criticizing the Chinese ambassador for threatening Germany, and especially using the German car sector as some kind of example, potentially hinting that if the German government does something to Huawei, then China could retaliate against these German car exports, and also kind of extrapolating that there is a connection between the Chinese government and the company of Huawei. Mr. Bastin, what is your first question that when you hear such a story?
I think the ambassador's words are understandable.
Because it is only reported as well. We do not know exactly what he said, but it has been interpreted that way.
Okay. Well, let's look at that interpretation, and if that interpretation is anyway accurate, I think the ambassador will probably reflect on that in the cold light of day and perhaps look at a slightly different form of words, because I don't think it's terribly helpful. But I think if we do look at it closely, I can't imagine there will be some sort of threat here at all of retaliation at all. The German government and the Chinese government get get on very, very well. When it comes to the automotive sector, they both need each other, and then they've both benefited very, very much from trade in that area. So I think if we look closely at the wording, it's probably not a threat, and it's probably some sort of milder form of comment. But I think the ambassador really needs to get round the table with the German government to explain clearly that there is no threat on the table.
It got picked up, but for sure, because it's very much in the news and doesn't look very, it's not very helpful for the Chinese official.
Yeah.
Professor Zhang, your reaction?
I agree. It's the way as it is reported. If there's nothing else, then that seems to be preemptive and a little bit too much, in my opinion, actually. So I think actually China and Huawei in particular has a lot to gain by helping Germany to successfully implement a cybersecurity, telecommunications security regime that can be serve as a golden standard that can be ported to other countries globally. And so I would caution against assuming a confrontational posture against Germany unnecessarily. As I said, that's Mike said. They're very objective, and I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I would say, you know, the Chinese government, if a Chinese company gets treated unfairly abroad, or if a Chinese national gets treated unfairly abroad, wouldn't it be expectable for the Chinese government to come out and say something, you know, to at least say, you know, please treat our companies or our individuals fairly? Professor Zhang, I think if it is done to that degree, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure, there's the extenuating circumstance that, you know, there is people say that, you know, China is supporting its companies too much. There's too much state involvement.
Well, they kind of link between the two sides.
Right, but there's the extenuating circumstance that there's another state actor out there just actively sabotaging this particular private company. So you sort of have to have a level of state that can muster a certain level of capabilities to defend it, at least. Right, that under that circumstance, I think okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Professor Zhang Fan, Associate Professor from Beijing Normal University, and Mike Bastin, Senior Lecturer at the University of Southampton. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with Alex. Thanks for watching. We've got The Point.